Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling. You're staring at your textbooks, maybe you've been at it for hours, and it just feels like you're hitting a wall.
Yeah, totally.
Or perhaps you're just looking for, like, a significant jump in your grades. Our source today makes a pretty remarkable claim. They went from being a solid C student all the way to pulling straight A's and earning a first-class degree.
Wow, okay.
And not through natural talent, they say, but through a very specific strategy.
That's the fascinating core of this deep dive, isn't it? We're pulling insights from a YouTube creator who basically distilled years of personal trial and error into a set of tested methods. It's like a roadmap born from the trenches, not just academic theory.
Absolutely. And our mission here is to dive into that source material, filter out the noise, and extract the most actionable nuggets, the study hacks, the consistency tips, the mindset shifts, specifically so you can potentially apply them and elevate your own learning approach. The big idea right up front is that academic success isn't some innate gift. It's fundamentally about deploying the right strategy.
And the source is really upfront about this. They share their own story of genuinely struggling, having to work far harder than peers who seem to just glide by. Their breakthrough wasn't just grinding more hours, it was discovering and perfecting a strategy.
That's key.
It really challenges that whole idea that some people are just born smart and others aren't. It shifts the focus entirely to method and approach.
Okay, so if strategy is the key, where does this source say you even start? They put a huge emphasis on understanding yourself first.
Exactly. Specifically, how you learn best.
Right.
They break it down into the classic learning styles, visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic.
The standard ones.
Yeah. But what's powerful is they don't just list them, they show how deeply tailoring your approach makes a difference. For instance, the source identifies as a visual learner.
Okay.
And used diagrams, mind maps, colored pens, even replacing words with little pictures. For them, remembering information meant literally picturing where a note was on a specific part of a mind map stuck on their wall.
I love that visual trick, replacing words with images. It forces you to engage differently, doesn't it?
Totally. And for kinesthetic learners, the ones who learn by doing.
What's their go-to?
Teaching the material to someone else.
Ah, the classic.
And the source specifically suggests teaching it to a 6-year-old.
Really? Why?
The logic is brilliant, actually. To explain something simply enough for a child, you have to understand it at a fundamental level.
Makes sense.
And articulate it in your own words, not just repeat complex jargon. It's active learning taken to, an extreme.
Yeah.
They also recommend taking an online test to sort of pin down your type and then actively searching for methods tailored specifically to it.
So once you know how you learn, the next piece is finding the right information and resources. And the source doesn't pull any punches here. They suggest school materials are often just the bare minimum.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point about taking agency, The internet, they say, is your most powerful ally.
Right.
They share examples using YouTube for deep dive analysis on subjects like English literature at an A level.
Okay.
Turning to Khan Academy to break down complex math concepts, and even using platforms like UpLearn to conquer subjects they initially failed, like economics.
Well, it's not just about finding explanations, is it? What stood out to me was their emphasis on learning from other students online.
Yes. Why is that so effective? Well, they argue that other students who are navigating similar learning curves often explain concepts in ways that resonate more directly with how you process information. They understand the specific stumbling blocks you might face better than someone who's understood the material for decades.
That makes a lot of sense.
And building on that, they suggest looking at past examination papers and examiner remarks from other schools or universities, not just your own.
Oh, beyond your own bubble.
Exactly. This gives you a broader perspective on exam structure, common pitfalls, and what top-tier answers actually look like. It's crucial practice beyond just knowing the facts.
Right, because knowing the information is one thing, but being able to, present it under pressure in a very specific format is a whole other challenge.
Totally.
So, okay, once you have your strategy based on how you learn and where to find the best info, what are the core study techniques this source swears by?
Well, it's definitely not about just reading and rereading notes for hours. They explicitly challenge that.
Good.
It's about working smarter and tailoring your techniques to the specific subject.
Give us some examples of that tailoring.
Okay, so languages. Flashcards are basically non-negotiable. They mention memorize. English literature was about finding that high-level online analysis we mentioned. Math success came from relentless practice with past papers, not just rote memorization.
Right, practice.
Science and history often benefited hugely from flashcards and mind maps, especially for visual learners. But underlying all of it, for moving information into long-term memory, are two techniques they highlight as absolutely fundamental: active recall and spaced repetition.
Okay, let's unpack those. Active recall.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean in practice, like day to day?
It's about actively trying to retrieve information from your memory without looking at your notes.
Okay.
So instead of rereading a page, you'd close the book and try to explain the key points aloud or write them down. It forces your brain to work harder, strengthening that memory pathway.
Got it. Makes sense.
And spaced repetition builds on that.
Spaced repetition, practicing recall, but spaced out over time. Is that the gist?
Exactly. You don't just cram and then test yourself once. You review the material shortly after first learning it, then again a few days later, then maybe a week later, and so on. The idea is to practice recalling the information just as you're about to forget it. That timing is key, which significantly improves long-term retention. Think studying Saturday, quick review Tuesday, another review Thursday, that kind of thing.
And what are the practical ways to implement active recall and spaced repetition based on the source? Flashcards seem obvious.
Flashcards are classic, yeah. Physical or digital, apps like Quizlet, Anki are mentioned, Anki specifically. But the source also shares some creative visual/kinesthetic methods, like sticking notes or mind maps on walls.
On a wall.
Or putting sticky notes with key info, like important quotes, inside wardrobe doors or maybe by the bathroom mirror.
So you just see them all the time.
Exactly. That way you're practicing recall effortlessly throughout your day just by going about your routine.
That's clever. It turns daily life into spaced repetition practice. Okay, and then there's a specific technique they detail called the blurting method. This sounds intense.
It is intense, but incredibly effective, according to the source. Here's how it works. You study a topic intensely for about 30 minutes.
Okay, focus study.
Then you put all your notes away, and on a fresh piece of paper, you write down everything you can remember about that topic for the next 30 minutes. Just blurt it all out.
You're just dumping your brain onto the page.
Precisely. Then you take your original notes and compare them to what you wrote, anything you missed.
Find the gaps.
Exactly. You add it to your blurt page using a different colored pen. Then you restudy the parts you missed and then repeat the whole blurt process again.
Wow.
You keep doing this until you can write down everything without needing to add anything in that different color.
Okay.
And they say it doesn't matter if you initially read, listened, or used flashcards. This method forces deep processing and shows you exactly where your knowledge gaps are.
That makes sense. It's like a diagnostic tool built right into your study session. Okay, so we've got our strategy based on how we learn and key techniques like blurting and active recall. But how do you actually implement this consistently? The source talks about the problem with infinite time.
Yes. The classic procrastination trap. When you don't set clear boundaries or deadlines for yourself, your brain thinks, I have forever to do this, so it finds something easier to do right now.
Definitely guilty of that.
The source's radical solution: time blocking everything.
Everything, like even breaks.
Down to the minute, potentially. They paint a picture, 8 a.m. start, flashcards until 9, math formulas until 10, break till 10.15, and so on. The argument is that this creates internal pressure. If you waste 15 minutes scrolling on your phone, you know your entire carefully planned structure for the day is disrupted.
Right. There's a consequence.
That looming consequence becomes a powerful motivator to stay on task.
And they suggest a simple rule for balancing study with life.
Yeah.
8 hours study, 8 hours sleep, 8 hours free time.
Yeah, the 8-8-8 rule. They claim that with effective strategy and techniques like active recall, 8 hours of focused study is genuinely sufficient to achieve top grades.
Which again reinforces the work smarter, not harder theme.
All right. Exactly. So to build your ultimate schedule, you take your subject-based strategies, gather your tools and materials, apps, pens, whatever, and then fill in a calendar or planner, blocking out dedicated time slots for every single activity.
Okay, here's where they offer a really counterintuitive advanced tip. Grouping tasks on certain days by using the same parts of your brain. What does that actually mean?
Yeah, it sounds a bit strange, but the idea is to reduce mental friction, that sort of task switching cost.
Okay.
Instead of jumping from flashcards for history to math problems to essay planning all in one day, you might make Mondays flashcard day for all your subjects that use them. Tuesdays could be past paper day for everything. Wednesdays, essay planning day.
Ah, I see. Batching by type of work.
Precisely. They believe this helps you get into a deep flow state more easily because your brain isn't constantly switching gears between completely different kinds of thinking.
That's a fascinating idea. And what about deadlines? They have a clever trick here, too. Something about fake deadlines.
Yes. Setting fake deadlines. Schedule completing tasks 3 or 4 days before the actual deadline.
Okay, why?
It's brilliant because it builds in a buffer for unexpected issues. You get sick, something else comes up, it reduces that last-minute stress.
Definitely need that butter.
And ensures you're likely finished and able to review comfortably ahead of time. It's like doing a favor for your future, more stressed self.
I like that framing.
Yeah.
And to keep the momentum going within this structured time, they talk about building in rewards.
Yeah, it's basically positive reinforcement for your brain. Simple conditioning.
How so?
If you complete a scheduled study block, your reward might be some free time, seeing friends, or maybe allowing yourself to use your phone after the task is done.
Only after.
Right. This conditions your brain to associate completing study with positive outcomes, rather than associating the act of studying with needing a break to scroll social media, you know.
Yeah, flips the script. Okay, so strategy, techniques, time structure. That brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, cultivating the right mindset and habits. And the source is very clear. Consistency over motivation.
Absolutely. Motivation is great when you have it, but it's unreliable. It comes and goes.
So true.
Consistency is what actually builds progress. Their mantra is aiming for just 1% better each day. Small, achievable actions repeated over time. That's the game.
And tackling procrastination is central to building that consistency. They touch on why we procrastinate. Those icky, overwhelming tasks trigger a kind of primal response because our brain prefers ease, right?
Exactly. Fight or flight kicks in almost. So you have to make the task less intimidating to your brain. That's where the 3-minute rule comes in.
The 3-minute rule. Tell me more.
You commit to doing the task for just 3 minutes, open the textbook for 3 minutes, write that first sentence for 3 minutes.
Okay.
The hardest part is always starting, and once you've invested those initial minutes, you've overcome the inertia and are far more likely to just keep going.
That feels genuinely actionable. Just start for 3 minutes.
Okay.
They also talk about prioritizing doing the most important tasks first.
Yes. Maybe identify your top 3 highest priority tasks for the day and commit to doing them by midday.
Eat the frog, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Knocking out the hardest things first builds momentum and self-esteem. You feel accomplished early, which fuels further progress rather than spending hours on easy, low-value tasks and still dreading the big ones at the end of the day.
Right. And acknowledging that our energy levels aren't constant, they propose having multiple routines.
This is a key insight, I think. You won't feel like a high-energy study powerhouse every single day. That's just not realistic.
Definitely not.
So have different plans. A high-energy routine, a low-energy routine, maybe a medium one. This allows you to still achieve something productive even on days you're feeling tired or unmotivated. The goal becomes completion, not perfection, on those challenging days.
I like that flexibility.
They apply this concept from workout routines to studying, actually. Interesting parallel. I love the idea they propose next. Romanticizing studying, like change your perception of it entirely.
Yeah. Make it something you want to do, or at least make the process more enjoyable. Tools can help. They mention using something like Paper-like for an iPad to make digital note-taking feel more tactile, more satisfying.
Okay, and there's little touches. And environment, they suggest cafe hopping.
Yeah, or just changing study locations every few hours, or after completing a major task, moving from a library to a coffee shop, maybe even a quiet corner in a hotel lobby, if you can find one.
Mix it up.
It breaks up the monotony and can apparently help you maintain focus for longer periods.
And visuals. Create a Pinterest board.
Right, filled with aesthetic study spaces, inspiring quotes, or images representing your future goals. Consume content, TikToks, YouTubers, even fictional characters like Rory Gilmore, if that's your thing.
Gilmore Girls study vibes, got it.
That romanticizes the lifestyle and the outcome of dedicated studying. Look at this content when your motivation dips.
Yeah.
It connects the effort to the desired results. Visual motivation. This connects directly to their point about an identity shift. Stop the negative self-talk.
Absolutely crucial. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm bad at studying or I'm such a procrastinator, you reinforce that identity.
You become it.
Exactly. The source argues you need to consciously decide to identify as the type of student you want to be someone who is disciplined, who enjoys learning, who studies effectively. This shift in self-perception is incredibly powerful.
Okay, but how do you actually make that shift stick and maintain these new habits? Accountability seems important.
It's vital. They list several methods. Keeping a digital diary, they use Snapchat, apparently, recording progress daily to maintain a streak.
A streak, okay.
Finding an accountability partner, just being around disciplined peers naturally influences your own habits. Using study time lapses.
Recording yourself studying.
Yeah, keeps you off your phone and creates accountability. Or even starting a dedicated study social media page, which combines accountability with a potential creative outlet or side hustle.
Interesting options. And speaking of phones, they are blunt.
Yeah.
The simplest method for phone discipline is physical removal.
Just get it out of sight and out of reach.
Yeah.
Seriously. Sometimes the sheer boredom that sets in when your phone isn't readily available is the exact push you need to finally start studying.
Boredom is a motivator. I like it.
And getting your phone back becomes a clear, immediate reward for completing your planned work.
Okay. They also briefly connect academic success to overall lifestyle exercise, diet, sunlight. It's not just about the books.
Right. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, builds discipline. A balanced diet avoids those awful sugar crashes. Getting some sunlight during breaks provides dopamine. These aren't just like generic wellness tips.
No.
They directly support cognitive function and habit formation.
It's all connected. An interesting perspective they offer is on comparison. How should we approach comparing ourselves to others? Because we all do it.
Yeah, we do. Their advice is avoid comparing yourself to peers who put in minimal effort and normalize complacency. That only drags you down. Instead, compare yourself positively by consuming content from high-achieving students who inspire you. See what's possible and use it as fuel, not discouragement. Find role models.
Yes. Use comparison constructively. Okay. And the final, perhaps most challenging piece of the mindset puzzle, mastering discipline. The source says this is the ultimate key, even more important than motivation. They call it getting addicted to discomfort.
It sounds intense because it is. It means intentionally seeking out uncomfortable things, daily small challenges.
Like what?
Maybe tackling the hardest subject first when you least want to. Going for that run when you really don't feel like it. Maybe initiating a conversation with someone new if that feels hard. By repeatedly exposing yourself to discomfort in small, manageable doses, you build mental resilience and increase your tolerance for difficult tasks. This training makes the initial icky feeling of starting studying much less potent over time. You just get used to doing hard things.
Wow. Building mental fortitude through controlled discomfort. That's powerful. So, okay, to pull all these threads together and give you some concrete steps to take right now, the actionable homework from this deep dive.
Right, let's boil it down. Based on the source's journey and methods, here's where they recommend you start. First, figure out your primary learning type. Maybe take one of those online tests and immediately begin researching and developing subject-specific strategies based on that type and what each class demands.
Okay, step 1, personalized strategy.
Step 2. Consider investing in tools or equipment that genuinely make the process of studying more enjoyable or efficient for you. Maybe it's nice pens, maybe it's an app, maybe it's that paper-like screen protector.
And make it nicer for yourself, got it.
Third, create your time-blocked schedule. Fill in those hours, and make sure you include specific rewards linked to task completion, and crucially, set those advanced fake deadlines for your major assignments. Give yourself that buffer.
Like the fake deadlines.
God.
Crucial.
Fourth, pick at least one subject, just one to start, and create a set of flashcards, physical, or using an app like Anki or Quizlet for a specific topic. Commit to practicing active recall with these regularly using spaced repetition. Just try it out.
Start small with one technique.
Okay. And finally, actively do favors for your future self. This means preparing for days when your energy is inevitably low. Create that motivational board, set up those multiple routines, high, medium, low energy, and maybe start tracking your progress, even just for a week, to see the momentum build.
Give yourself resources for the tough days.
Exactly. So there it is. The journey from C's to A's, according to this source, is less about being born brilliant and everything about implementing a deliberate combination of personalized strategy, consistent technique application, powerful mindset shifts, and cultivating genuine self-discipline.
And while this deep dive has focused heavily on the how-to of getting top grades, I think it's important to mention the source offers that final, valuable perspective. Grades are a measure, sure, but they don't define your worth as a person.
Absolutely. That's so important.
The real lasting benefit of this whole process is reaching your academic potential while simultaneously building the discipline, resilience, and effective habits that will serve you far beyond the classroom, in life.
Couldn't agree more. So what does this all mean for you listening? Given the emphasis on environment, identity, and intentionally stepping into discomfort, perhaps ask yourself, what is one small, uncomfortable step I can take today that aligns with the identity of the successful, disciplined learner I want to become?
Ooh, good question.
Or maybe, who or what am I currently consuming media, people, environments that is either pushing me towards my goals or actually keeping me comfortable exactly where I am? Something to think about.